Welcome, friends, it's the MovieFilm Podcast. MovieFilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Zaki and Brian are talking about movies. MovieFilm Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to MovieFilm. This is episode 96, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zaki Hassan, and with me once again is Brian Hall as we celebrate the post-Memorial Day box office weekend.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going. We're back a lot sooner than we normally are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were just doing this last week, which is now we're not bi-weekly, we're weekly.
Yeah,
for 2 weeks.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and maybe more. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff coming out this summer, so we may make several surprise consecutive week experiences.
for sure. Things worth checking in on.
That's right. So we won't say when, but we'll be there. We'll be there waiting to sneak up on you. And
Yeah. Anytime a major release. Whoa, hello.
Oh,
that's not where I was going at all.
Sorry, I think your version was the more correct one.
I was going with the superhero, like anywhere there's a new summer blockbuster opening, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Anytime. No.
Let's go with that one. But let's pretend I didn't say anything about slashing anybody's throat. That's just ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll pivot.
So, Brian, have you caught it? No, you kind of let me down last week. So I'm hoping you've caught up a little bit on new releases.
I hadn't seen The Nice Guys last week, to Zaki's disappointment. We'll leave it as a little cliffhanger if I have seen it since to talk about it, because I'm going to talk about a couple of other things first.
Okay.
So Memorial Day weekend, obviously, we had some time off from work, and I happened to catch a lot of things. I'll start by looking back a little bit. I want to say Friday night, I was just kind of hanging out, and the movie Big was on, and with that's the 1989, Tom Hanks movie, directed by Penny Marshall. What was it?
88.
And that's one of those movies, we've all seen it, and I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. And I was just really surprised. I just flipped to it because every single thing, this is a pet peeve of mine, every single thing was at commercial, every channel. So I was like, I want to see this, But Big was playing, so I was like, all right, I'll watch a little bit of Big. Ended up watching the whole movie.
How far into it did you jump in?
He had just surprised his friend.
Okay.
So pretty early on. I mean, probably missed like 15 minutes or something like that. And I was just like, this movie is so good. Like, so good. When was the last time you've seen it? And are you a fan?
I am a fan of Big. I think the last time I saw it, though, was probably the early aughts, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I just had so many thoughts about it. One, I was like, where are movies like this now? Like, I mean, obviously there's an easy answer for that. Like, there's no.
Well, I think part of the answer is that just that year used up the quota of like body switching movies.
That's true, and that's and they did do the change up with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds, which I hated.
There you go.
A couple years ago, but I wasn't even meaning body switch movies. I just mean like, just straight up. They talk about the 4-quadrant movie, which now is like some sort of PG-13 superhero movie that references, older music for 80s people and is younger thing, but like a true 4-quadrant movie where it's not with any people who can fly or, or whatever, but it's just a story that literally like a 10-year-old could enjoy on one level, a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 60-year-old could all enjoy because it's about it's about humans, right? And even though it's like some sort of like heightened situation, it's not really about the situation. It's about the humanity of it. And I was just really taken with it, honestly. And I started thinking about it. I was like, here's why this movie is great. And here's what they did in the 80s so well that they don't do now. And again, this took time for me to come up with this, but I can just sort of fast forward to it. This premise is ridiculous. Right? Like a boy makes a wish that he was bigger because he's 13, and then he becomes a 30-year-old man, and then he ends up falling in love with a 29-year-old woman and sleeping with her and doing really well at this big city New York job, and it's just crazy. But at the same time, they treat it completely sincerely. Like it is shot earnestly, it is treated earnestly, it is acted earnestly. It makes me think like Back to the Future. Back to the Future is nuts. Like when you really think about it.
Yeah.
But like it's treated completely earnestly. And that's why those movies not only did well, but they're still beloved to this day because, they're truthful. And I don't know. I'm calling out to filmmakers out there. I want to see more movies like this. I want to see movies that are truthful.
Well, it kind of, when you mention Back to the Future, it reminds me of what Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale have said about how they didn't want it to be a Disney G movie, nor did they want it to be a ridiculous sex comedy R movie.
Right.
And, that sweet spot at that time was PG.
Right.
This is pre-PG-13, I think, right?
Yeah, just about, right? 86, I think.
But even early PG-13 was still relatively tame.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, now we've talked about this enough times, where PG-13 is, in essence, many times, basically an R with, one less F word,
Right.
But back then, there was a sense of what you said, the 4-quadrant movie. The stuff did play, and I think the reason for that appeal was the earnestness, because it allowed for parents to step outside their cynicism. Not parents, grown-ups, to step outside their cynicism. And I feel like now we live in sort of the post. This is kind of like the horrible legacy of Scream to me, the Scream movies.
Interesting that you'd connect that.
Because Scream was the first time they did the slasher movie that called attention to how stupid slasher movies are.
Right. Sure.
And once you've done that deconstructionist approach, well, it's contagious because you have to now apply it to everything else.
Right.
And once you have cast Jason Bateman in a body switch movie, well, the mere fact of casting him is you making an ironic statement about body switch movies.
Right.
So,
which I think is interesting because it's funny. You reminded me when I was talking about this with someone else. I was just saying it was without cynicism, and it didn't wink at the camera, right? Like it just earnestly captured what was going on and what these people were feeling about it. And I just miss a movie so sincere, and fun. And like I said, it just the emotions of it were things that I think people of several generations could appreciate and sort of, you would look at that movie. When I watched that movie as a kid, I felt a certain way about it, but now as an adult, about the age that guy becomes, I think a completely different way about it, so I don't know. I was really taken with it, and I recommend it definitely to anyone who hasn't seen it. But I also thought something that was kind of interesting about it is the poor mom in that story. She's got like some whole other horror movie going on where, she thinks her kid's been kidnapped. And it's, they try to, I've noticed they kind of try to avoid it as much as they can. But what a horrifying scenario she's in. And then I started thinking about if we wanted to go back, make some sort of, not a prequel, but like a movie from another point of view from Big. It could be like the movie Ransom, but it's about the mother from Big. And she's got this whole big operation, and there's some guy who's willing to go like above the law to try to get the son back. And she's like, I'm ordering the hit, and like some sort of dark scenario. But then like all of a sudden her boy walks back through the door and it's the end of Big again.
That's so funny. That reminds me of when on this show a couple of years ago where I was like proposing my continuation of Dead Poet Society like 30 seconds after the movie ends.
You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you see that SNL skit?
Oh, Zaki, dude, that was one of those weird things where I feel like I haven't seen it in a while, where all different sorts of people on my Facebook wall were talking about how funny this sketch was.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And it was almost like overhyped for me, right? And so I pulled it up, like, what is this? And I watched it. And dude, I was like, that laugh where you're coughing? Like I was laughing so hard. So yeah, what we're talking about, if people don't know, is the Fred Armisen hosted SNL. I think it was the
Farewell, Mr. Bunting is the skit.
Yeah, it's like a riff on the end of Dead Poet Society, and it's really funny.
So it's however long, it's like 8 minutes probably, right thereabouts. And the beauty of it is that the first 2/3 of this skit are a pitch perfect creation or approximation of the closing moments of the Dead Poet Society. And it's one of those things where you're in it, so something's coming. And the longer they make you wait for the punchline, the bigger it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't disappoint. And to me, I think about what must have been the thought process behind here. You have to figure somebody in the writer's room has been nursing this idea for decades.
Yeah, finally.
Like he saw the movie as a kid and was like, whoa, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
What would happen if he was standing up there and that, and I don't want to spoil it, but you feel like it was like they're like, hey, we need a digital short, or we're 5 minutes short this week. And it's like, this is my moment.
Yeah. Today's the day.
This is why I've been put in this room,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if you don't find it funny, like, you have to respect the brilliance of how they captured it. I mean, Like you said, it is a pitch perfect recreation. I'm like talking down to the color timing.
Yeah.
Like it's so well executed. Yeah.
So do check that out.
Yeah.
What else, man?
Okay.
What else have you seen?
Back to the list. So I also saw Neighbors 2. Have you seen Neighbors 2?
I haven't seen Neighbors 1.
Oh, interesting. It's funny. People were sort of like going crazy for Neighbors 1, saying it was like the best comedy of the year or whatnot. I thought it was fine. I don't know. I never felt that way about it. I do like Seth Rogen. I know people have fallen off that train too, but like I'm still a Seth Rogen fan. I feel like whenever he shows up in a movie or a movie he produces or whatnot, there's always just that little extra something, like just a handful more jokes that you're going to get than your other comedy, and they might be a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
A little more clever. So anyway, I'm a fan of Seth Rogen. I like Neighbors. Neighbors is fun. Neighbors 2, unfortunately, just kind of falls into that trap like we always talk about with comedy sequels, where it just can't live up to the freshness of the first one, because it basically repeats the premise, but this time, instead of a frat moving in next door and them trying to live peacefully, now it's a sorority moves in. And I didn't even mind that. I mean, the fact that it's repetitive, it's like, well, what are you going to do? I mean, it's kind of a one-trick pony premise. It's more about the jokes, right? And the characters and their scenario. And it's one of those things where they try, and I'd say most of the time succeed to make it a movie about like the female perspective of being in college and parties and what it's like to have to deal with fraternities, because the movie highlights the fact that sororities like legally aren't allowed to throw parties. Okay. Like that's a real thing. And so they have to go to these frat parties, and frat parties are basically just about guys trying to figure out how to get girls to have sex with them. And so, these girls are like, well, we don't want that. We just want to have fun, being ourselves. And so they end up opening this fraternity. And I thought that was an interesting angle. And it's, like I said, that was done fairly well. And Chloe Grace Moretz plays like the leader of the sorority. And, but then, Seth Rogen and his wife, Rose Byrne, played by Rose Byrne, are trying to move now. And they have 30 days of escrow that they have to get through before the people who are going to buy their house could pull out. And so they try to reason with the sorority, but it becomes like a battle. It's one of those things where it has those too many awkward moments where a scene is happening and you realize they're trying to do a bit and it's just not finding itself. It's just not landing. And then the scene ends and you get the establishing shot of the next scene. You're like, ooh, that didn't happen. You know what I mean? I feel like that happened a couple times. And I was like, that's interesting. That I don't know. I feel like they're smarter than that. So I was a little surprised at how much it didn't land. But, I don't think you could go wrong with it on like TBS or HBO down the line. But I didn't really think it was worth the trip to the theater.
Now, the difference in box office between Neighbors 1 and Neighbors 2 has been very stark.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
where
for a few sequels, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little later.
Right, we'll get there, but I mean, it seems like there's a mass rejection of sequels going on at the box office.
Yeah, we should. We'll revisit that. I have some thoughts.
Okay, well, to be continued. Yeah, box office, sequel box office. Mental note. We'll get
put a pin in it. So I also watched The Do-Over, which is the second Adam Sandler movie to debut exclusively to Netflix.
So I saw some of this as well. I didn't watch all of it.
Oh.
And I made it maybe 10 minutes in.
See, that's how far I got through a ridiculous 6. I didn't even make it 5-10 minutes. I turned it off.
I feel like all illusion of Sandler not actively hating his audience is pretty much out the window with these two movies, these Netflix movies.
You know, I had weird feelings about The Do-Over. I did finish it, and I like Adam Sandler, and I like David Spade. And this is coming from me being a kid of the 90s, you know, where they were from my personal favorite SNL years.
Sure.
And I love Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and all the early Sandler stuff. So, and it's funny because my friend Chad was saying like, wow, you still keep giving him a chance. And I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, you know what? I won't go to the theater for him. I won't do it. But
so this Netflix
for
deal
free,
is exactly for you.
It kind of is, because I'm like, okay, like, what do you got? Like, I can turn this off. I didn't pay for it. I mean, I did, but I didn't. And you know, what are we doing here? And I think what kept me through the whole movie was I was actually impressed with the plot. I thought the plot was pretty good. And it's about, you know, two, you know, sort of high school rejects, and they reconnect at a reunion, and then they both kind of have miserable lives, and they end up faking their deaths. And
right.
And that's just the beginning. That's the trailer. And it ends up going in like totally direction you would never imagine. Kind of an interesting twist even at the end, and it gets a little serious. Really good idea, but it just was executed so poorly.
So it's just like Pixels, in other words.
Yeah. And that's what it's almost aggravating about it is, again, like David Spade, like totally, he's not like phoning it in. He like goes for it, and he tries to be this character, and Adam Sandler is Adam Sandler. And you know what I mean? And the jokes are just sort of mediocre. And you know, what was really interesting about it was I sort of sensed this as I was watching it, and I thought about it, but kind of didn't articulate it fully into my brain. But then I read, is it Chris Bunbury, right? Mm-hmm. His last name on Joe Blow. I read his review right afterward. I'm a big fan of his, by the way. He writes great reviews over at joeblow.com. And he articulated what I was feeling, and it was that this movie felt unfinished. Like, it actually felt like they didn't have the connective B-roll or second unit or whatever, or we're missing a scene, and they're like, we're shooting that when we do reshoots or whatever. Like, it felt like a rough cut. Like, it was so awkwardly edited, and the way that it was paced, and the way it just felt like things were missing. Like, and he Bunbury said in his review, it almost felt like it wasn't ready, but they just threw it up anyway. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, I totally felt that when I was watching it. It was really interesting. So it made me wonder, A, how much Netflix is spending on these movies. Like, B, what do these movies do for them? Like, do they actually, are they worth it? And C, I imagine their budgets are significantly lower than a theatrical release, but so are they more forgiving, or did they feel like, yeah, we feel good about this, let's put it up, you know? Or are they just like, well, pretty close, people click on it, and that's the money we need anyway?
Well, you clicked on it, so clearly there's enough of you out there to make this a financially worthwhile investment.
I suppose so. And I'll tell you what, when he puts up his third one, I'll click on it again, probably.
Well, and I mean, I think that his time as a box office draw is effectively over.
Right, which is really then the smart move for him to move over to the next thing and pioneer the next thing. Whether or not he survives that.
Well, I mean, straight to Netflix is just the new equivalent of straight to video.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, yes. But I'm surprised by the movies that end up on Netflix. Like, there was one with Eric Bana and Ricky Gervais that popped up recently.
Yes. But even that I heard was not that good.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know that they're good movies, but it's not like, you know, Sabato Jr. or, you know, who, you know, sure, people like showing up in these things. I mean, these are like movies that somehow didn't find a home or something. I mean,
other than Beasts of No Nation, I've yet to hear of a single Netflix movie that's, you know, worth watching, like worth seeking out.
And I imagine that has to do with they need a stronger development team. But Beasts of No Nation, I think they probably acquired. But I've read at film festivals, Netflix has a hard time acquiring films because people are like, well, you know, if this is an awards contender, what is that?
Yeah, and plus, I mean, again, Netflix is home of Adam Sandler, and I think a lot of people don't like. It's weird, actually, when you think about it. Netflix original TV does not have this problem, the perception problem that
Right.
Netflix original movies do. I think that's kind of interesting in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, in a weird way, brings me to my next movie.
Very nice.
I finally saw The Nice Guys.
So this is about Brian Hall, right? The nice guys. About
Yeah,
Brian and
it's not
Dan
us.
Hall.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. Which is funny because that was I was holding out to see that movie with my brother because we both love Shane Black and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang so much. So we're like, I got to see this with Dan. And the reason I connected that to the Netflix thing is because there was a moment when I was watching this movie, and this is like a probably like $20 million movie or somewhere thereabouts, maybe a little more. And no, I think it was 50 actually. I looked it up. It's $50 million movie, and it's starring, Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe, big stars. But this is a movie that isn't a franchise. It's kind of a small story. It's kind of quirky. It's not for everybody. I could see a handful of people going into this and not being happy walking out. And there was a moment, but for me, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I really enjoyed the pitter patter and back and forth that Shane Black does so well with these two mismatched, characters trying to work together. And there was a moment at the end where they were both trying to do something in proximity of each other, and they were yelling at each other, and action was going on. And I had this thought in the middle of that moment in the third act. I was like, I'm sad I'm not going to see these guys again.
Right.
Like there's not going to be a Nice Guys 2. Like, this isn't going to start like a whole Lethal Weapon thing. Like, this is just kind of a cool little fun thing that gets to exist because Shane Black made Iron Man 3. And it made me sad. And I was like, movies like this are going to end up on Netflix. Like, yes. They're going to be, hopefully, once Netflix gets a better grip on, like I say, like developing movies and bringing in a little more interesting things, these are the types of movies that are going to start popping up on Netflix. Well,
and just to pick up on what you're saying, I mean, this is the thing, right? Because this is the complaint you hear again and again. Why do they keep making sequels? Why do they keep redoing old ideas? And it's like, well, the reason is because when they make movies like this that don't cost that much, this one cost about $50 million, and they don't even make back their $50 million investment.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Warner Brothers, which released this, can make $800 something million on a quote unquote disappointment like Batman v Superman.
Right.
Well, I mean, you tell me what kind of projects they're more likely to back.
Right. You can't argue with it. I mean, it's good. It makes business sense.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that this movie did exist, and it was a blast. I had a really good time with it. Like, I mean, you talked about it last week, and I think. I went in like ready to like love this movie, and I'd say I walked out like really enjoying it.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it was as strong as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was. Like, and in some ways, it almost feels like this could have been a sequel, and they just like switched out the characters a little bit.
Sure.
But and some of the plot, I started thinking about it. And I was like, huh? You know what I mean? But some of the logic of the plot. But you know what? That's not what you're there for. Like, you're there for this sort of crazy, old school pulpy noir plot.
And just the banter.
Yeah, the two goofy people that you enjoy hanging out with have to like navigate their way through, and that's exactly what this is.
You know what? I one of the parts where I was watching it, there's that dream sequence.
Yes.
And it's funny because you're watching it, and you're like, part of me was like, okay, so we're doing this, because it felt very sort of incongruous with the rest of the movie,
right?
And I thought it was very funny. But I love the fact that dream sequence basically exists just to set up what I think is one of the funniest punchlines
at the end.
Yeah.
When they're in the oh my gosh! I won't spoil it here. I'm glad you brought that up. That was so funny, and it's funny because it happened, like you said, something silly that happened earlier. So funny.
He's like, and again, I'm trying not to spoil it, but he's like, oh, I'm looking for that thing, and he's like, what thing? Like, he has Russell Crowe has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's I recommend it, but I will say that it is, it's dark. It's kind of a dark movie. I mean, it's got a lot of laughs, but
in the first 5 minutes, we have a naked porn star splayed out in the wreckage of a car crash, and that's literally like how the movie starts.
Right, and ironically laid out to resemble her centerfold. like
Right,
the posters
exactly.
and her centerfold. So I mean, it's like it's got a dark sensibility to it.
It's a
And
Shane Black sensibility. I mean, when you think about it, that's exactly how Lethal Weapon starts.
yeah, exactly. And I'm not. I mean, I'm just saying. We're talking about how funny it is. I'm just preparing some people just to be ready for that. Because yeah, I mean, innocent bystanders get shot in this movie. Like that's the kind of movie this is. And I don't think it's played for laughs. I heard somewhere people thought it was darkly played for laughs.
No,
I didn't.
I think the stakes are real, but the situation is real, but the characters' reactions can be humorous.
Yes, exactly that. And that's what makes it humorous, is because they're around real violence.
Well, I loved Ryan Gosling doing a perfect Lou Costello when he finds the body,
Yeah.
Outside of the party.
Yeah. That was...
oh my gosh. Seriously, like I'm just talking to you about it. And I'm like, I want to watch it again.
I just want to spoil the jokes is basically what I want to do right now.
Really, right?
Yeah.
You know, one thing I'll say is you watch this and, here you have Russell Crowe and Kim Basinger essentially reuniting 20 years after LA Confidential. And it struck me how like Hollywood does not let women age gracefully.
Yeah. I wondered if you're going to mention that. Yeah,
and this is not meant to be any kind of a diss on Kim Basinger.
No.
But I mean, you can tell she's had work done, and she's whatever. She's just trying to remain youthful. And meanwhile, you've got like pudgy, wrinkled old Russell Crowe. Right. And I was just like, this is like the Hollywood dichotomy in a nutshell. I mean, look at this. 20 years after L.A. Confidential, Kim Basinger is not allowed to look like she is now 20 years later.
Right. Sure. Right.
And that, I mean, it's sad because, I mean, I think certainly for somebody like Kim Basinger, the roles have dried up regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. I was actually, my brother made a funny observation about her character, but that would spoil the movie. So I'll tell you off mic.
Darn it.
Yeah. And what else? Did I see anything else?
I think you're good.
I think that's it. I think we're good.
Wow.
That was like a big intro.
It was like Brian's info dump of his Memorial Day movie marathon.
Yeah.
Well, I did not see anything, actually.
No?
Well, that's not true, actually. I did see a movie called Me Before You.
Okay.
And so this is a new romantic. It's not a romantic comedy. It's a romance. And it stars Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones and also from Terminator Genesis. Mm-hmm. And she plays a young woman who is a caregiver, she's hired as a caregiver for a young man who is paraplegic after being hit by a motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
And it's based on a novel. And she falls in love with this man. And he, meanwhile, does not want to live in this state as a paraplegic. And so he wants to end his life, and she wants to convince him to give life a chance. And hilarity ensues. And well, not hilarity. Wrong choice of words. And various romantic movie tropes sort of fall into place. I have to be very honest and say I'm not the audience for this movie at all.
Okay.
And that's not in any way diminishing the experience that the intended audience is likely to have.
Well, let me ask you this. Is this like a Nicholas Sparksy sort of movie, or is this like a melodrama kind of movie, or what's the tone? Sounds pretty heavy.
Obviously it's not, it's not a Saturday evening frolic, it's,
I mean, like The Vow, right? I mean, that was a Nicholas Sparks movie about a woman who loses her memory.
I mean, it's kind of in the same wheelhouse as that,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, it's pretty heavy itself.
I mean, it's fun. So I watched the movie, and then afterwards I was talking to the publicist, and I was kind of like, well, I felt this and this, and I was kind of essentially echoing what I said to you. And I was like, but I don't know. Do I just have a cold, dead heart? And she looked at me. She's like, yeah, I think you do.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's fair. I think my wife would agree with you, So, and I mean, this is like, I told my wife, I was like, you should probably go see it. I think you'd like it. I was like, I will not go see it with you. I've done my time, but go find some lady friends and enjoy it,
Right. Sure.
So again, I'm not trying to dog on it because I think it'll probably work for its intended audience. I am not even remotely its intended audience.
Right.
It's funny. I was talking to Zara, who was on our show last summer, and she was mentioning how we don't really do like romance movies and things like that. We just do like boy movies. And I was like, I guess that's kind of true, you know. But I feel like, I mean, what are you and I going to say about like a romance movie, you know?
I'm trying to think of the last good one that I've seen. Because I mean, I like a good one for sure.
Romance is dead, Brian. I think that's what we're going to say. Give us a good one, Hollywood. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah, sure.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
Yeah, Hollywood.
But regardless, so me before you, it actually opens later this week, but I did have a chance to talk to Emilia Clarke, the star of the film, and she is, of course, like I said, a major presence on Game of Thrones, which is a show I have never seen, never once, not one single frame of footage have I ever seen from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And so this was an admission that I had to make, and it was a bit embarrassing. And so I did make that to her during the course of our interview. And before we even play this, man, what just a delightful person. And really, it was one of the more fun interviews I've had to do. And I think you can tell that, you know, during the course of listening. So let's go ahead and play that.
So just to start things off,
Yes.
The film is kind of a break for the characters that you're used to playing. Was that a deliberate choice on your part?
No, well, this is the thing. I didn't really make too many choices with in terms of strategic planning. That doesn't happen with the way that I like to work. I read a script and I'm moved by a character or a story, and this was that times a million. I got incredibly moved by it, and was just like, as soon as I started reading it, I just knew, I was like, this is a side of who I am, so I have to play it.
Were you familiar with the book beforehand?
No, what my agent said, listen, they're making this movie, but I'm sending you the book.
Okay.
So you can read the book, because I think it's really important.
So you read the book
that
first? Okay.
I read the book first, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what is it specifically about the character that appealed to you?
So much. It was her kind of, her warmth and her empathy and her sensitivity, and then her joy and funniness and wanting to help and wanting to kind of be bright and refreshing. And my God, we've got so much swampy darkness that we have on everything, on all kind of, on media.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what is like the most kind of interesting choice. And this just seemed to me that you had this breath of fresh air with this incredibly topical, political, you know, kind of point at the heart of it, and then a love story on top. And you're like, that's just a kind of interesting concoction I hadn't read before up until that point.
Well, and I mean, I'd love for you to talk about that. I mean, this is a politically heated topic, this notion.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is a film that's going to be seen and embraced by many people. I mean, do you worry that people will misconstrue the message?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean in the sense that in the film, the choice that Will makes, it's not an easy one. And it's one that the character has arrived at after, you know, the deliberation that we see in the film and then in the narrative of the film.
Yeah.
You know, do you worry that people will perceive it as a pro-suicide film? Or, you know, I mean, simplifying something that's much more complicated than that.
Well, I think it was something we were incredibly delicate about and very sensitive about. And we all, I mean, obviously Jojo herself did a huge amount of research, and that's her story with the book to get to this idea. But then we as a cast, especially me, Sam and Thea, the director, did a huge amount and met a lot of people. And I individually did my own work. Sam did his own work. There was an advisor who worked in a hospital with quadriplegics every day, on set every day, to make sure that everything was as it should be. So there was no false kind of, there was no, we weren't showing anything Hollywoody.
Yeah.
It was as accurate as we could be. But I also think the beauty of what we've done is because the heart of it really is a love story. Yeah. It's really simple, and we just sort of painted the landscape, and I hope what we did was show that that it's a choice that people have, and I think that one of the things they were very aware of was needing to have, for each opinion to have a voice. So you've got my mum, for example, who's dismayed and disgusted by the idea. Yeah. So that's being said, that's being put up there, and people are listening to and being affected by it. And then you've got the parents who hated the idea at first and then having to come to terms with it. And then you've got Lou, who is horrified at first, and then...
Lou is the nexus for both of those points of view to sort
Yeah.
of come to fruition.
No, exactly, and that's exactly what she's dealing with. She's got both sides on her shoulder of what it is. And then just so that the kind of, on a sort of human level, the horror of what that first instinct of is, why would you do that? And then the reality of the situation, and then the understanding of her love and her understanding that he has a choice.
You know, as I was looking at Sam, it struck me how he, when he's not in the chair, he looks like Christopher Reeve when he wasn't in the chair. I mean, he bears a resemblance to the pre-accident Christopher Reeve, and so I couldn't help but think of Christopher Reeve in his performance.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not by design, but it's just, I was struck by the way his voice sort of laid down. And I remember Chris Reeve's interviews, and he would talk that kind of with a very flat voice. And I was really struck by how it must have felt for you to have such a willing partner to play those scenes with.
Exactly. It was really wonderful, because there was just... This goes for the whole cast and crew, but especially for Sam and I think we both had so much respect for each other and for the story, and we just both wanted to be there very much. So we wanted to elevate this to its highest level and kind of be as sensitive and as professional as we could about it. And everything that he brought just made my job easier, and hopefully I did the same for him.
Well, I mean, certainly there's just, you can feel the character's heartbreak in that moment at the beach without spoiling anything. I mean, it's just, I thought that, it's one of those things where certainly as a critic, you see enough films and you know sort of the mechanics.
Yeah.
Right? So I think to be able to pierce through that and just feel the angst of the characters, I mean, I think that really says something.
Yeah, well, that was the hardest day filming ever, was that one. Also because I'd broken my hip. So I had to do that dance. The pain was so real. I couldn't even get on his lap. Like, I was just too much pain.
That's hilarious. So, I mean, when we look at a film like this and we contrast it with something like Terminator, obviously last year, which you've spoken about previously in some interviews. I mean, what is it that makes you draw on these kind of different characters? Because I'm figuring with your TV schedule, you probably have a limited window to, you may get like one project a year that you can do.
There's a kind of short hiatus. I'm trying to squeeze 2 in this year, but there's a shortish hiatus. So, I mean,
that means that your time is precious and you need to, so what's that process like? I mean, you described, for Me Before You, I mean, for what drew you to Terminator?
It really is with everything. It's so much. It's like, how do you decide who's going to be your friend? How do you decide who's going to be your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whatever it is? You're in that frame of mind at that moment, and someone goes, "How about this?" And you're like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, this kind of feels good. Let's do that today." Yeah. I try very much to not have a plan as such, and to just kind of, I have the safety of Game of Thrones, which is the incredibly lucky thing that I have, in that it is incredible, and just I get to kind of go back and re-educate myself every time and be with a sort of a family that teaches me a huge amount. So then the hiatus, I feel like kind of trying this on, because that's my goal. My end goal for thinking about the scope of my career is to just do as many different things as possible. Sure. I just want to push myself in every direction. And so I was like, yeah, give me a gun. I mean, let's do this. Give me a fucking grenade launcher. And then I'm
sure there was some comfort working with Alan Taylor.
Exactly. It was exactly. But I was reading this while filming that.
Oh, wow.
That was when I got sent it. So it was hilarious, me clutching a gun and crying.
That's really
like
funny.
into my book. Yeah.
That's really so then your Terminator experience fed into this experience.
It really did. No, it really did, because this was, and so that was just a gorgeous thing as well, to sort of go, okay, I know what that is now. Or I have an understanding of what that kind of job could be. And then doing this was like, I was filming in London. I got to go home every night. I was with people who I just loved so much and cared about, and it was a dreamy experience, the whole thing.
So do you look at it in terms of like scratching items off a list? Like, I want to do a rom-com, and
It's also really script dependent.
Sure.
So it's the amazing Ryan Gosling. I read once said he described choosing roles as like listening to songs on the radio. One just makes you want to dance.
Wow.
So it literally is just that. Sometimes the one that makes you want to dance isn't number one, and that's okay.
Right.
And others you just have to. You can't help it. You have to do it. And this, I must admit, this is the strongest I've ever felt about character. It's For Me Before You.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on a performance level, it's so engrossing. Where you've got the characters who, like, again, they can't be together, and that's the heartbreaking aspect of it. And I think that's what makes a great movie romance. Titanic, etc.
Exactly.
It's that same idea.
Yeah. No, hugely. It's this kind of star-crossed lovers.
Right.
Element to it, exactly. And while I feel like now we're in a much more sort of evolved place than my dad doesn't like you, so we're not allowed to get married.
Sure.
If you go back to kind of original storytelling and you're sort of looking at Cinderella or whatever it is.
Sure.
Now I feel like there's this wave of these tearjerkers with a kind of incredibly sad heart to it. Because that's now a reality that people are talking about and kind of giving a voice to.
The romance in this story.
Yeah. In that kind of we can't be together, as opposed to,
I guess, Who's Coming to Dinner, and because society has thankfully moved past stuff like that.
Exactly. Obviously, Western society to a point has
right.
Everyone's individual, but
that's true.
But I just think that the drama of that love is kind of affecting to an audience.
So I have a confession to make, and it's an embarrassing confession, and I'm giving this to you because when I told people I was talking to you, they said, ask her about what happened on Game of Thrones yesterday.
Oh.
And
you don't watch Game of Thrones.
It's not that I choose not to. I have
so you have a life and time. And people you want to spend your time with as opposed to watching the TV.
This is the problem, right? Is that's a show that I cannot watch with children in the house.
No.
And, because
people say that to me, I'm like, what?
Yeah, see?
Take the 5-year-old out of the room! What are you doing?
So I have 4 boys, so by the time they go to sleep, I'm asleep.
It's damn straight. Yeah.
So we've reached a point in Game of Thrones life where I was like, I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna wait till it's done.
I'm gonna wait till it's done and watch the whole thing. I did that with Breaking Bad. I would walk out of conversations, and then it got to the point where I was like, everything's spoiled for me now. I'm just gonna.
That's
and it was
where
over,
I'm at,
and I did the whole. How many seasons there were? I did the whole thing. Same with The Wire. I was like a decade late on that one.
So that's kind of the thing. Game of Thrones has been completely spoiled for me, it's all. I'm still looking forward to experiencing it. But,
and heck, you may not like it, and that's okay.
I don't doubt that I will, but again, it's just
it's
like
a commitment.
That's the thing,
It's a commitment.
It's like, do I want to enter into this marriage right now, or do I want to date a little right now?
Exactly. I've just started watching Orange Is the New Black.
Oh wow! Okay,
so
you feel my pain. Okay,
it's so much effort. It's a real. It's a you have to wait till you get sick.
Yeah.
Seriously, and then you're like, there's nothing better to do. I'm now gonna take it on.
So so this is the question that my partner, who I host my show with, he said, please ask about, and this is a Game of Thrones question on behalf of my partner. How do you find it challenging to speak these sort of
languages,
made up languages that and to find truth in that while it's all
So season 1, this was Game of Thrones was my first job, pretty much.
Okay.
Like right out of the gate, it was just what I was just eager as all hell and just so happy to be employed. So truly, that was the heart of it. Like, the fact that it was HBO was ridiculous, and the fact that it did well was like, what? But so learning Dothraki, which is one of the made-up languages that I speak, in season 1 was just, I was like, this is just what actors do. Like, this is just what happens. Sometimes you have to do this stuff. I mean, I'd been to drama school, but this was very different. And then when it rolls around in season 6, you're like, dude, please.
No more.
I just, like, a week of, like, back-to-back Dothraki. Oh, my goodness. And I'm beginning to, it's beginning to get harder.
Yeah.
But then when you, and I suppose it's because I'm just becoming a bit more, I'm doing other things. So I'm like, come and I just want to speak English. But then when you do manage to like harness that power, because normally I'm saying something really badass in that language and like doing something really strong in it, so it makes it helpful. I do it to my kitchen, but it goes out of your mind really quickly. So I'll be rehearsing it in my kitchen, and my oven will like get it, it'll like get the whole thing. And there's something about having the protection of like when you have an accent. When I put on an accent, like I'm doing for this movie I'm filming right now, it allows me to be a whole other person, and I get to say all the stuff in my head that I'm like, filter, don't say that word. But in the accent, I'm like, I'm allowed to. This is an accent. It's totally fine. Sure. So Dothraki is the made up languages is the same thing.
It's an accent for you.
It's an accent, so I get to just unleash another aspect of myself that I would be too afraid to in real life.
Okay. So I mean, do you have like a word by word translation so you know what the heck you're saying, or it's like this is the gist of what you're?
So the cat sat on the mat. And then I'll have that's the English line, and then it'll be the their translate. So it won't be the cat sat on the mat. It'll be Yeath cateth sat mat oneth did it something, and then it'll be the Dothraki or whatever. And I have my MP3 player, and so I just by rote.
Wow.
Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. 20-minute working, 10-minute break, do something active. 20-minute working, 10-minute break, do something active. Like it takes.
Well, and it's effective.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Based on everything I'm hearing, and I will watch the series in its entirety.
Sure thing.
So Brian, that Game of Thrones question at the end, that was all.
Yeah, that was really cool, man, dude. I mean, talk about charming.
Yeah,
she is, like you said, delightful. She's just delightful.
And you can tell that just because when I'm like, I've never seen the show, like that was me being like, I'm rolling the dice here that this is going to be an awkward moment,
Right. No, she handled that well, and then she even joined in with her own things with binge watching and whatnot.
Yeah.
Maybe
so
for being sick.
so that's a lot of fun. So I probably had more fun doing the interview than watching the film the interview is about. But again, cold dead heart.
Well.
Let's take that into account.
That's what'll get you.
That's right. So moving on, we do have a few listener letters, and these aren't so much letters as they are new reviews up at iTunes, and I wanted to share these with y'all. So this is from She Who Walks Behind the Rose, and this is actually our friends at the Sequel This podcast, which is a brand new show that just launched a few weeks ago, and it's hosted by Mark Rissman, who's a friend of mine, and he says, Zaki and Brian have some of the best chemistry I've ever heard. It's really a will they, won't they kind of relationship, which, Brian, I've been saying this for a while. We are kind of like the new Moonlighting.
Yeah, right.
So I'm glad others are picking up on the sparks, the palpable sparks.
Yeah, the tension.
We're like Zach and Kelly.
Will they, won't they?
That's right. Will we get married in Vegas? I don't know.
Who's to say?
You got to keep listening.
Yeah, we'll spend a summer working at the beach, and
that's right.
Change could be like a Tory that shows up.
Could be Leah Remini.
Yeah,
she was in those beach episodes, wasn't she? That was her. Right?
Oh, that's right. Tori was at the school. That was Leah Remini. You're right.
Tori was at Leah Remini was at the beach, and Tori. So Tori, they had her because get this. So they shot the finale of the series, okay, which is the graduation episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got picked up for another season. And by then, Elizabeth Berkley was off like Horn It Up and Showgirls. And so they were like, well, crap, what do we do? So they brought in, what was her name? Leanna Creel, I think was her name, who played Tori. Why do I how can I know?
I am always impressed and yet never surprised.
I'm going to Google, I'm going to see if that is actually her name or if I just like made up some imaginary name.
Well, is she from something else also that you'd be drawing that upon?
I'll be damned, Leanna Creel. No, that was her. No, what would I know her from?
I don't know. Maybe she was on LA Law one week or something. And
not that I'm aware of. No, but so it was Leanna Creel. Wow, I'm amazed that I know that. But they brought her in for that's why Jesse is not in the Tory episodes.
Okay.
And then they at the end they had the graduation, but they had already shot that earlier.
Oh, so they so they didn't allow them to graduate till they're ready to end the show.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Now you know.
I love Saved by the Bell.
That's why Tori is not in the graduation episode.
They should have awkwardly, had him like look across the gym, and then she's in a single shot with like
it's very obviously inserted.
Yeah.
They should have, but I mean the show was shot on like VHS for however much it cost to buy like a 10-pack of tapes from Montgomery Ward,
Yeah. The Saved by the Bell PA line again at the Montgomery Wards.
Like there was no Costco back then, so they couldn't even buy in bulk. You would just walk in every other week. You'd get the 3-pack of the JVC.
Yeah, I can even picture what you're talking about. That's hilarious.
Were we in the middle of something? I feel like we were. Yes,
review.
Okay, hold on. Reading the review. Will they want to? Zach and Kelly. Okay. Yes. So seriously though, fellas, keep it up. Your show is the mammary glands. Wanted to stay PG here. Okay, well that's funny. Thank you for that. Okay, and here we go. This is from Punchy Kara.
Yeah, thank you.
Punchy Kara says, "Did you ever know that guy who went to film school and was such a douche as he'd condescendingly explain why Memento is the greatest film ever made?" Now, Brian, I think that's how you described me after we met. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
You're that condescending douche. And I think Memento did not exist. We're like, I'll bet you there will be some movie in a couple of years, and you're going to try to convince me.
Yeah,
it's the best, Brian and Zaki are not those guys. Well, that's nice. This podcast totally cracks me up. Here you can learn behind the scenes things about new and upcoming movies, not feel entirely ridiculed for liking a movie that might be a little cheesy, and be absolutely entertained at their quick banter. I laugh a lot listening to this.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty. I think we should just call it a show after that, because nothing we do from here on out can top that very nice review.
No, thank you very much.
So thank you, folks. It's been a good night, and I guess we will not be talking about X-Men Apocalypse this week.
Yeah, that's Brian and Zaki signing off.
Signing off. Thank you for that, Punchy Kara. So really, really appreciate that. We also have one more letter that I will get to later. I'll hold that for our spoiler talk in just a little bit. But real quickly, Brian, we do have some headlines.
Yes, we do.
So this past weekend, X-Men Apocalypse did open, but it opened against the new sequel from Disney, which is, by the way, Disney has broken like $3 billion at the box office this year. Something insane like that. So another in their line of surefire successes was the sequel to 2010's Alice in Wonderland, this one called Alice Through the Looking Glass. And it made less in its opening weekend than the first Alice made on its opening day.
Yeah.
So the first Alice, I think, had a Friday of 45. This one had a weekend of 35.
That's something.
So this is a pretty decisive dismissal by the audience that's saying, thank you, but we're doing fine. Thank you. We're really okay.
Well,
so first of all, have you seen the first one?
I have seen the first one.
Did you see the second
one? I did not see the second one.
You saw the do-over, but not Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Well, if Alice Through the Looking Glass showed up on my Netflix on Friday when I had nothing going on.
This is the funny thing about this is that I was going to see this.
Okay.
And so like when we recorded last week, the plan was I was actually going to go to the screening of this, and then after I came back, I was going to get on the call with you, and I would have probably talked about it. But it was going to be like an hour drive, and I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to watch this. I was like, I know with a fair amount of certainty that I'm probably not going to have a great time. Yeah. Not to say I'm expecting it to suck, because I'm always hoping it'll be good. But I was like, you know what, the odds are probably not in favor of this one being a thumbs up from me. And so I was like, I'm good. And I feel like the rest of America pretty much made that same decision.
Had the exact same conversation with themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the first one came out in 2010, which I didn't realize it was that long ago. But also it was directed by Tim Burton. And I feel like, if I remember correctly, when this movie was at least announced, it was like, oh, that's interesting. Like Tim Burton, I like his aesthetic. And he's taking a story that I'm familiar with and putting it through his filter. Like, what would Alice in Wonderland look like from Tim Burton? I feel like I remember that feeling. And
sure.
We got it. And obviously a lot of people responded to it. And it looked like this was just the same thing. Like the exact same thing.
Minus Tim Burton.
Well, I was going to say, that's what's so confusing. or not confusing, but what is interesting to me, it looks exactly like the first movie. However, yeah, it doesn't have the Tim Burton name. And do people know that? Like, is that enough for people not to go? Did they not want to see the same thing again?
See, it's kind of interesting. First of all, it's directed by James Bobin, who did both of the Muppet movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a bad director by any stretch. However, if you went to the theater in the lead up to this film's release, you would not have known that James Bowden was not involved, because they would have like, "Hi, I'm Tim Burton. I'm producing Alice," through his usual like highly energized way of selling the movie, and he was front and center, but it's like he couldn't even muster the enthusiasm for this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about how the first Alice, which I'll just putting it on Front Street, I was not a big fan of. But those who would have been fans of the very Burton-esque aesthetic that the film had. So in other words, that's the selling point. So the idea that you're going to wait 6 years to make a sequel that Tim Burton does not direct seems like what's happening here,
True, but at the same time, I mean, if it makes $1 billion, you gotta. It made
$1 billion and yet was forgotten instantly.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you, but
so had they struck even 3 years ago,
yeah,
that would have made more sense than waiting 6 years, which is an eternity.
See, I feel like studios don't think with their hearts; they think with the numbers, right? And like the numbers told them to make a sequel. Like sure. I can't argue with that. The numbers made them do it, Zaki. but at the same time, yeah, I think anyone with common sense, gosh, I don't know, man. I feel like a sequel is inevitable, but I feel like they probably should have anticipated that there was no way it was going to do the same business as the first one. So they should have hedged their bets maybe a little bit better than they did.
Here's another thought. That movie came out at essentially what was peak Depp.
Yeah, good point.
Right? Johnny Depp, people just showed up and would line up to see Johnny Depp in whiteface for whatever thing he was doing.
Right.
So he had a window of about 5 years.
Yeah.
Where basically whatever crap he did, people showed up. And then it's almost like the immediate aftermath of Alice in Wonderland is when people started not showing up for his movies.
Yeah.
And what we're at now is pretty much the exact opposite of peak Depp.
Yeah.
And that's not even talking about obviously all the legal stuff that's going on. That's a separate thing. But I mean, it's just he's not a draw anymore. I think that much is fairly obvious.
He's not a guarantee.
I mean, at this point, the assumption is that Pirates 5 is going to be a hit. I think that's too much of an assumption to make, if you ask me.
Man, I don't know. I don't remember how the last one did, but
it made over $1 billion.
Okay, see, that doesn't surprise me. I feel like that character, even though it's probably exhausted, that character just gets people to go.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I'll probably see it. Sure. I saw the fourth one and I didn't even hate it. It was just completely, I forgot about it in the middle of it.
But I mean, again,
it was like, it's still, and it's just him bobbing around doing his thing.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the test, right? Because if Johnny Depp can't get people to show up for a Pirates movie, then it truly is over.
Yes, because I mean, the Mad Hatter, I mean, it's not like, we're pining for more of him doing that whole thing.
doing whatever he was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I've got nothing against the film, and who knows, if I saw it, I might even enjoy it. But yeah, it is really interesting that it, like you say, it couldn't even muster up the first opening day numbers of the first film over the entire holiday weekend.
That's and I think that once you factor in international, it'll probably do okay.
Sure.
But I always feel like whenever international box office bolsters the terrible box office domestically, it doesn't speak well of the international community.
That's funny.
Like Terminator Genesis made $500 million.
Yeah. I remember that was the story, that the movie was a failure, and then it opened in China, and like, well, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all that's going to do is encourage more slop like this.
Yeah. I know this is a whole other avenue, but this makes me think of Avatar.
Yes.
And you know what? Avatar 2 is going to do great. No doubt. Because
you say that. I'm curious.
I don't think it will match the first one, but I think it will get a lot of people out of curiosity alone. I think it's going to be huge. But then there's 3 more. Like, I think each one of those is going to just go down, down, down. That's my guess. Like, kind of like The Matrix, right?
So it'll be Matrix Revolutions by the end.
Yeah, and who's to say? I hope they're great. I really do, because I love James Cameron. But I just have this feeling like they can't live up to what the first one was.
Well, the party line I have is I will never be the guy who bets against James Cameron.
Yeah.
However, that being said, I will be the guy who's slightly concerned as I'm betting on James Cameron.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I think, and I think we've covered this to some extent on this show, but I think that he feels that there's far more of a hunger for Pandora than there actually is. Yeah.
Then again, I don't know. I mean, that was a phenomenon I'll never understand. Like, I understand being a fan of the movie, even like a huge fan of the movie. Totally get it. But like, remember you see all those videos about people freaking out and all that. Like, I never saw that in my personal experience with people I knew and whatnot, but it happened.
I mean, it's what I always say is, how many Na'vi do you see cosplaying at conventions?
Well, yeah, I definitely won't argue its lasting impact for sure. I don't think it. Well, I mean, we could do a whole episode talking about that.
we could, and maybe we will before Avatar 2 comes out, if it ever does. Okay, so Alice 2, we're saying it could be a harbinger for a lack of interest for Avatar 2. Let's see if that is borne out.
We'll see.
However, that's not stopping Disney from bringing on the sequels. And this one baffles the hell out of me, I'm not going to lie. So just today they announced that they're doing the sequel to Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. Mary Poppins 2, The Revenge.
Have you ever seen that trailer?
Where it's like, it's like Scary Mary, I think it's called.
Right. Yeah, it's really good.
This is not that. So the original Mary Poppins came out in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be 50 plus years later, and so it's going to start. It's not going to start. What's her name?
Julie Andrews.
Thank you. Yes, her. I should know that. That's embarrassing. It's not going to start Julie Andrews.
Certain you do.
I did, yeah, but that's why you're here. It will star Emily Blunt, who I love Emily Blunt, but is this not like the most thankless job in the history of film?
I'm of two minds. I think the initial is like, give me a break. Are you kidding me? Mary Poppins always has been and still is my favorite live action Disney film.
Okay.
In terms of like their, musical family films. And I love Mary Poppins. I actually watched it maybe like 2 years ago again with some people, and we're like, this movie is just great. Like the music's great. She's great. Anyway, so yeah, there's that like why are you trying to do something to rest next to that? Because it never can. On the other hand, Disney has been killing it with their live action movies lately.
Well, except for the one we just talked about.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like Cinderella, Jungle Book, Beauty and the Beast. Did you see that Beauty and the Beast, the trailer?
I did.
Got more views in one day than Star Wars did, Force Awakens.
That I read that, but I almost I feel like somebody misread the information because that almost doesn't sound right to me.
It's really hard for me to believe as well, but I don't know until it's refuted. Like I really think that movie's going to be humongous too, because I work with people that are slightly.
I think it's going to be a monster hit. Yeah, no doubt.
They grew up with Beauty and the Beast. Like that's their Disney film. So the thing is these movies haven't been bad. Right? They've actually been pretty good. So I don't know. Whoever's overseeing these things is obviously putting great care into them and delivering a quality product. So I don't know who's to say.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go.
Have I said that like twice now about two different things?
You've been doing that. Yeah, you sound like a Zen master in some like martial arts movie. Who is to say, child?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll end up seeing it.
This is, by the way, it's being directed by Rob Marshall, who did Chicago, I think, right? That was
right,
that him?
right. He's a musical guy.
And he did Into the Woods last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, see?
But I think the thing that will disappoint me the most inevitably is the songs just can't be as good as the original. So it'll be a bummer.
I have to admit, it would take good reviews getting me into the theater to watching this.
Yeah.
Because I can't muster a lot of interest in it. I feel like, some things are better left alone,
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that movie, but it's always kind of appealed to me. I enjoyed. Yeah, so I'm curious. I'm curious to know. I'll check it out for the two.
Have you been like, but what happens next to Mary Poppins?
No. But I do know it was a series of books, right? I mean, there are more stories.
It was a series of books, but I mean, despite what the film said, the Saving Mr. Banks, she was never, whatever her name is, she was never a fan of the movie.
That's true, but I'm just saying there's a well of stories to draw upon.
Yeah.
That already exist from like original material from the original author.
There we go. All right. Well, I guess we'll be talking about it at some point. So
who's to say?
You're building up your repertoire of catchphrases, didn't you? What was your thing last time?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we need to keep better track of your catchphrases.
I have the worst memory. Yeah.
Otherwise, this little thing isn't going to work, Brian.
Yeah.
Our little Etsy store idea is not going to happen if you can't remember.
Yeah.
You gotta hold up your end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a little bit light on headlines this week, but of course, we do have some Star Wars news. So cue that music. All right, Brian, what's happening in Star Wars land today?
Well, the story actually happened today, the day after Memorial Day, and it is kind of interesting. It's about Rogue One, which is coming out this December, the next Star Wars movie we're going to have, directed by Gareth Edwards. And apparently, it was screened for executives, and Disney executives were not happy with the movie.
Supposedly.
Did I say? Yeah. This is all allegedly.
This is according to Page 6.
Yes.
Which is a gossip site in the New York Post. So the New York Post's gossip page.
Right. So who knows? But they are going to spend the month of July doing 4 weeks of quote unquote expensive reshoots on the film.
I love how the article specifically says the word expensive. Like there's any cheap reshoots.
I think significant would be an interesting word to substitute there. I mean, if it's
that would be more appropriate than expensive, right?
Yeah, if they're changing. I mean, in movies, theatrical films typically shoot for about 3 months. So 1 month of shooting is significant. but
okay, so now you speak from experience here, having been on film sets.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's my question. Aren't big budget films like this, doesn't the schedule basically include X number of weeks for additional shooting?
For sure. I think it's probably typical, and this is me, I haven't been on a film in a while, but I think it's typical to have at least a week.
Sure.
Like budgeted in. And Disney, this is what I thought was interesting about it, is that Disney actually had a representative tell Page 6, this is the quote, the filmmaking team and the studio always anticipated additional shooting and second unit work to make the film the absolute best it can be, and the actors were aware there'd be additional shooting. Coming off The Force Awakens, there's an incredibly high bar for this movie, and we have a responsibility to the franchise and to the fans to deliver the best possible movie we can. So, one, that's interesting to me that they acknowledged it and defended it. I don't think they were being defensive in a way where they're sort of like, hold on. But I do think it's interesting that they felt like they had to say something.
Sure.
But that said, I always said this before The Force Awakens. It's easy to talk about it now because it was a monster hit and one of the few movies that ever almost rivaled Avatar. So we know how that story ends. But I remember before it came out, I always said, there's no way this movie can fail. It can't fail. It's the first movie in a $4 billion, Kickstarter.
Right.
So it has to succeed. And I think, obviously, now that we're going to have a Star Wars movie every year, eventually there's going to be one that's not good or not great or whatever. But this movie, I feel in a similar way, also can't fail because this is the first movie that isn't an episode.
Sure.
Right? This isn't a Skywalker story. This is, we're going to try to tell other stories in the Star Wars universe, and we promise you're going to love them just as much. So there's a lot riding on this movie for the success of, all the spinoffs that they hope to have for years and years to come.
Yeah.
And my guess is with Gareth Edwards making this movie, who's, I haven't seen any of his movies that have been particularly fun.
Sure.
They've been really well made, but they're not necessarily fun. And The Force Awakens was a crap ton of fun. I am willing to bet that they did make probably a fairly decent heist / drama / whatever you want to call it, but they were probably worried that it wasn't fun.
You have to figure, right, based on what we know about this story and based on what we know about what comes after, that this is not a story where the majority or possibly even all of our characters make it out alive.
That's a good point. I don't know how many Bothans are in this movie, Zaki.
No, that's Return of the Jedi, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
Many Bothans died. Yeah, that's in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but I'm just saying maybe those are the people that go on these dangerous missions and don't come back.
What is a Bothan? I want to know.
I don't know.
But so clearly, and just from what we saw, from the teaser trailer, a little bit darker. I don't think it's wrong for Disney to want to up the sort of the Zaz factor because The Empire Strikes Back is a darker movie, but it still plays.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So if we're talking about darkness in tone, I would say almost like the basement should be The Empire Strikes Back.
Totally agree.
Right? Like it shouldn't go much darker than that.
Right. It can't be super self-serious.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. I'm not concerned. Like this isn't like, oh no, is this movie going to suck? Like it's not going to suck. I have a feeling this movie is great. I know that this movie is going to be good and enjoyable and fun. I'm just almost certain of it. But I am a little disappointed or sad that I won't get to see what their original intent was.
See, but okay, so here's my sense, okay? I think that, and I'm going by something that Kevin Feige has said as it pertains to the Marvel movies. He said we shoot it, and then we watch what we have, and then we figure out what areas we need to build up and what's not working, and sometimes we'll just scrap something. Like, in other words, it's a molding process all day. So it's not like this is what we have, and now we have to change everything because it's not working. It's a process of let's see where we're at, and this far out. We're this thing doesn't open until December. So assuming that given that this is another Disney division, I could easily see it operating with that same kind of sense where let's look at what we have, let's see how it fits, and then let's see what areas we need to tweak.
Yeah, I hope so. I think
here's the problem. I think that the word reshoot is no longer effective at embodying what is actually happening, which is more like supplemental filming.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's everything you're saying is what I hope that it is, rather than them trying to fit it into another mold.
Yeah. Well, so that's part of what I'm concerned about. But I feel like a lot of that stuff, I feel like Kathleen Kennedy is a smarter person than that.
Right.
And I feel like she's got enough wiggle room to make the movies in the best way possible.
Right.
The other thing I was thinking about is I'm wondering if it might not have been a bad idea to hold off on the spin-off movies until after this trilogy was done.
That, I don't disagree with that. I think everyone can wait 2 years.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm excited that there is a Star Wars movie this year.
Yes, this is true. But if we're trying to, let's assume that what was said is at face value, that, we want it to be closer in tone to The Force Awakens. Well, part of that is because after The Force Awakens, people are hungry for the next chapter of that.
Right.
And so if this is being made to be a stopgap between these two saga movies, as opposed to something that will be a good movie forever, right? So in other words, it's like a temporal fix for a permanent movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then that's being short-sighted.
Right.
Whereas it might not have been a bad idea, again, to just be like, let's just do the trilogy. And then after that, we do the saga movies. And then, hey, if we want to do another trilogy down the line, we'll pause the saga movies and we'll do that,
Right.
do that trilogy. I mean, obviously they're not thinking that way because they are looking at the Marvel model, which is just keep the assembly line moving. And that's kind of what we're seeing, for good or for ill. I think this whole conversation may end up being moot once the movie comes out. But,
Sure.
Can't help but think about that.
Yeah, it's fun to think about.
Yeah. So that opens this December, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, December 16th.
Do you want to talk some spoilers for X-Men Apocalypse?
Shall we?
Well, let's first do our non-spoilers.
Yeah.
Now, I gave my response. I'm on the record. I've spoken my bit about this movie. So if you want to hear what I have to
that's
say,
right, because you saw it several weeks ago.
I saw it way early. So that's kind of a weird. Well, actually, and that's actually a good place to, before we fully get into spoilers, to get to that listener letter I was alluding to. And this is from Tyler Kloster, who said, "Hello, gentlemen. I listened to your latest episode and wanted to toss in a few comments. You questioned why Fox would screen the new X-Men movie and lift its review embargo so early. And they lifted the embargo like 3 weeks before the movie came out domestically, when its quality apparently doesn't warrant it. My take is that it's all about Fox trying to influence perception after looking at how the two most recent superhero offerings were handled by their studio. Warner Brothers didn't allow reviews until as late as possible for Batman v Superman, and people correctly perceived that the studio was nervous about what they had. It came across that WB didn't have faith in its product and was already doing damage control. Reviews turned out to be awful, and box office dropped sharply after the huge opening weekend. Marvel allowed reviews for Captain America Civil War several weeks in advance, and people correctly perceived that the studio was excited about what they had. It came across that Marvel had great faith in its product. Reviews turned out to be stellar, and the movie's already holding it better than BVS. I haven't seen X-Men yet, of course, but if the film is as mediocre as it appears to be, I would say that Fox was just pulling a bluff by trying to emulate Marvel's approach with Civil War instead of WB's approach with BVS, acting as if they're operating from a position of strength instead of weakness. Pride in their film instead of panic. Keep in mind that Fox also acted from the panic position with Fantastic Four last year, so they have extra reason to try something different. What do you think about that, Brian?
It's funny because that reminds me that when that whole thing happened and we were wondering why they did it, I had that thought. I was like, oh, they must really believe in this.
Exactly.
I hadn't seen it. And I was like, well, I mean, people have their opinions, but I don't know. Fox obviously, feels strongly enough to put it out there. That's
Right.
funny. So yeah, maybe that was it.
Do studios bluff like that, though? Because that seems like a hell of a bluff.
I know. My little conspiracy theory was that they wanted to get all the bad reviews out early until people forgot about them and then have the movie come out.
And is that something that would be plausible?
I have no idea.
Seems like the majority of the reviews hit week of release anyway. So
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I was kind of just meh on this. As I said, I did not hate it, but I was like, all right, well, hopefully the next one is better. That's my review. That's my one sentence review. Hopefully the next one's better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm right on board with you there. It was I like the X-Men movies, but they don't
They don't really stay with you, do they?
They don't stay with me like the Marvel movies do, or like a Batman movie or whatnot. But I do enjoy them. I think
they're like the Chinese food of superhero movies.
Sure. And, and you enjoy seeing them in your refrigerator the next day. Like, oh yeah.
I mean, every once in a while you get like an egg roll that gives you food poisoning, but on the whole,
right.
It's a good meal that's gone. You're hungry, about an hour later.
And it is interesting, actually, that in the movie they have this moment where the kids are walking out of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And they say that the third movie is always the weakest.
Right.
Trying to, slam on Last Stand. But it's interesting because this is the third movie and the sort of the rejiggered version of this franchise.
Well, it's funny because when they said that line in the film, I was like, oh, that's funny because Last Stand. But in my head, I was like, this movie needs to get a lot better between now and the end. Otherwise, that line will be really embarrassing.
Right, right. Well, it's an interesting movie. I mean, because my brother saw it really, really early. He got to see a rough cut of it, and
Okay.
he had told me that it felt very different from the other movies. And he said the villain felt like it was out of a Brendan Fraser mummy movie.
Uh-huh.
And I was like,
Sure.
okay. And it was funny because then the movie starts off in ancient Egypt, and there's like all sorts of crazy wizardry going on, and bad CG pyramid smashing and whatnot. And I was like, oh wow, he was right. That as I say that though, I actually didn't hate that sequence. I thought it was kind of cool, and I was like, okay, here we go. And I think that was kind of it. Like, was with the other films, at least recently, Days of Future Past and was one before that, First Class. They had this sort of like, your history, right? Like Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK, all this stuff. Like we're going to insert like these fantastical characters into the history, right? And I really enjoy that. And this movie just tried to tell this like bonkers, over the top story.
Yeah.
That did not feel of a piece to what we had seen in the last two movies, I think. And for better or for worse, I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do. I mean, this is obviously based on a comic book that a lot of people are familiar with and like and whatnot, but it felt tonally like a huge shift, almost to like just whatever blockbuster territory in terms of like, too much CGI. I had no idea what the villain wanted. 80% of this movie involving the villain is him recruiting.
Yes.
Right.
It's like the Brementown musicians.
Right. I don't even get that reference, Dennis Miller.
Really?
But,
Well, you remember the story about the animals that are going to Bremen, and it's like they keep picking up a new traveler on their way? No, really?
no, I don't.
Wow, okay. So, folks,
No.
Google Brementown musicians, so I don't feel like a freaking asshole.
No, dude, that's on me. Are you kidding me? I'm impressed.
So, hey, should we get into spoilers? Because I want to get into it a little bit.
Okay. So all I'll say is I didn't think it was like the clunky one of the group.
Okay.
Right? If you like X-Men movies, you've seen them all. Of course you're going to see it, but don't expect it to be as good as the last few.
There you go. That's Brian's non-spoiler take. Now let's count down to the spoilers.
Spoilers.
Okay. So the movie starts, and I love that what Bryan Singer does is he has certain stylistic carryovers from film to film. And I love that whenever he does a movie, it starts with the Professor X narration, and it starts with the, there's like the opening sequence that goes through Cerebro and stuff. And I like that. It feels like a James Bond movie or something where, certain things carry over from film to film.
Right.
So also, John Ottman does the theme music, and we get the same music. Like, I like that. I like the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of so the movie starts and we get the music and everything. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I'm excited to see one of these. I think the problem is, like you said, the opening sequence feels like it's out of a completely different franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself is fine, I guess. But I was thinking about this because he was like, he gave an interview where he's like, for the next one, they might go into space and all this other stuff. And I was like, that's cool, I guess. But the problem is that the front half of this franchise has been so not that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That suddenly now that they're doing all this stuff because audiences are okay. If you remember the very first X-Men movie where Wolverine suits up and he's wearing that like leather Matrix suit. Yeah. And he's like, what the hell is this? And Cyclops is like, well, what do you want to wear? Yellow spandex? Pointing at like the fanboys in the audience while saying that.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like, that back then was them being like, oh, we don't, this is like the comic.
Right. Yeah.
Now we have, Paul Bettany as the Vision wearing like a sweater and walking through walls. Like, the bar for what we'll accept from this genre is completely, like, there is no bar anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Deadpool exists.
Right.
within this franchise, and that's great. But the problem is that, we've got those early films that, for the majority of people, are kind of, that's what this universe is supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring in Oscar Isaac looking like, Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers, I said this before. It could have been me under that makeup. I could have been Apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah.
For all the voice modulation and everything, total 100% waste of Oscar Isaac. But he's there and he's doing all this stuff, and he's like, I mean, he feels as if he's a part of some entirely different franchise, even though he's part of the X-Men universe of characters.
Yeah. There were moments that were with him where I totally felt what they were going for. Like the first scene where he's with Storm and he goes into her house and he's wearing the cape and the hood and whatnot, and he's walking around. I was like, that's scary. Like there's this powerful dark figure in the real world walking around. But then there are other moments where I'm like, his face looks like Nerf. You know what I mean? Like it alternated back and forth. But I have to say, this was a little non sequitur, but when there's a moment where he's trying to learn history. So he goes over to the television and he touches the television.
Learning.
Yeah. What are you doing? Learning. I half wanted him to take his thing off and go, hello, baby. Yuck, 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 yuck. Like Energizer, he keeps going and going. Like, because if he's learning everything from TV.
So this is a trope that I think needs to die.
Yeah, I get it, but it really makes no sense.
Right? It's like the aliens who come to Earth. They're like, we have monitored your broadcasts, and it's like, okay, let's let this thing lie fallow for a little while, because I think it has been overdone at this point.
Well, could he have only learned from what was on television at that time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why did he go on the internet or something?
Well, there was no internet. It's the 80s.
Oh, that's right. So,
although you wouldn't know that, because
no, they do not celebrate it at all.
Other than like the Annie Lennox musical number there in the middle.
Yeah. No, they don't highlight that at all, even though they.
Well, here's the funny thing. Okay, so we're kind of jumping all over the map, and that's fine. I mean, this is the truth is that the film it's not fresh in my memory, because I did see it like 3 weeks ago. So a lot of this is the first time it's all kind of coming back up, like my lunch. It's coming back up. So Eric Lensher, right, Michael Fassbender, is basically in the film to fulfill his contractual obligation of being in these films. Now,
well, you know what?
Before you, I want to say I think he does a very good job, in the sense that I think it's very difficult for Fassbender to not do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
However, and you tell me if I'm wrong, certainly for the back half of the movie, he looks like he would rather be anywhere else on this earth than in this movie.
Two conversations. Brian, pick the conversation. Okay, let's stick with that first. The bad, that he doesn't look like he wants to be there. Yes, I agree, because all right, let me have the first conversation.
Should I leave? Should I let you guys hash this out?
Yeah. Brian, stop. What? Who?
It's like Brian is dead now.
I am Todd. I am decisive. So Michael Fassbender starts off this movie living in Germany, I think.
Yes.
And he is with a family and he works at a steel mill. And everything about that story, to me, was A+.
Sure.
Like, the acting is A+. The drama of it was A+. I was like, oh, I'm watching a movie. But it had this like crazy little, like superhero bent to it, where then, the steel or the vat of lava or whatever the heck it was going to drop on his coworker, and then he ends up stopping it with his powers, and then the police take his daughter and they're out in the woods, and everything about that was exactly the best version of that.
Sure.
For this movie, because again, it's in real world. I mean, Magneto was at Auschwitz. You know what I mean? Like that's heavy duty stuff. And that's, like you said, that's what this series has set up, like acknowledging those things, but putting these people in those real world scenarios. So anyway, when that whole scenario went down and he ended up, the daughter dying and he kills the policeman, I was like, this is good. Holy cow.
That sequence in the forest was really intense. I thought it really worked well.
I loved it. I was like, this is a great movie. And nothing else in the movie lived up to that moment. And I felt like he was sort of the shining spot whenever he appeared. However, you just reminded me, in the end, when he's basically just working as a security guard, like
he's Apocalypse's muscle.
He is. And he's up there and there. Yeah, you're right. He just looked like he was like, okay, I'll just stand in front of this green screen and metal flying around me.
Because he's, he's kind of floating, right? So you picture him held up in this harness and it's like he couldn't even muster the energy to not look like he's hanging in a harness. He's kind of just limply like, F this.
I didn't quite get why he would hook up with that guy anyway. I didn't buy anything about Apocalypse.
Totally agree.
Yeah, none of it made sense to me. Which is funny because that reminds me, as long as we're hopping around all over the place. So while Magneto is, like if you say, acting as the security guard, he's got all this metal floating everywhere. And then it's, Mystique and Quicksilver show up to try to talk him down, right?
Yeah.
So then Mystique is like, this isn't what you want. Don't do this, whatever. And then Magneto is like, what are you fighting for? Who are you fighting for? Like, what does this matter to you? Kind of a thing to her, which makes total sense because they have this relationship.
Yeah.
And then he looks at Quicksilver, who we know is his son. And he's like, what about you, guy I don't know? I completely care about what you have invested in this moment right now.
Well, they met that one time, remember, in the previous movie?
I just thought it was funny. It just felt very.
They don't have like a connection, but
no. But I mean, he doesn't know this guy, and it seemed very funny that they want to have the moment where Quicksilver will almost say, "You're my dad," but then he doesn't. That kind of made me laugh.
I love how your Quicksilver is basically Ted Theodore Logan.
Sending me to Oates Military Academy.
Now, so I will say this. I thought this film's sort of showcase Quicksilver moment was really good.
Yeah, me too.
They needed to compete with last time where they set his little antics to time in a bottle, and now it's like, well, it's 10 years later, so here's Eurythmic and it's Sweet Dreams. Really, I thought that scene was really well. Here's the problem, though. When I talk about how just narratively it's like all over the map, that scene occurs right after Professor X has been kidnapped, and Alex Havoc is presumably dead, although we don't know that at that moment, right? So in other words, it's like the lowest point for our heroes.
Right.
And then it's like suddenly, now here's an awesome, hilarious musical number where we watch this school just get decimated. Right. And then immediately after, it's like, where's my brother? Oh my God. And it's like, again, this emotional moment. It's like, guys, the pacing here is just all over the map.
Yeah. That's really funny. I honestly, I didn't even think about that, but it's totally true. Like, it was so all over the place.
And it's a shame because I think James McAvoy is terrific. I was thinking as I was watching, I just like seeing him as this character.
Totally agree. We walked out saying, my brother and I, who saw it together, we were saying, anytime Magneto or Xavier were on screen, it felt like a high point.
Yeah. So related to that is, of course, the third leg of this, prequel trilogy's cast, which is Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Now, forget the original films where Rebecca Romijn was just glorified eye candy as Mystique, right? Mm-hmm. Mystique has a slightly more prominent role in these films. But even if you go from First Class in 2011 to now, we've gone from she's kind of an important supporting character to she is now the most important mutant in the history of all mutants ever. Yeah. And drives me crazy because I don't think people are going to see these X-Men movies to see Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm certain that's them serving her, right?
Right.
Keeping her involved. Actually, it's funny because that's how the movie ends, right? She is barking orders.
Yeah.
to her like recruits, and she's like, "This isn't school anymore. You're not children. Like you're soldiers now, and you're like your ass is mine," basically, kind of a thing, like ordering them around. And then it shows who it is, and it was Quicksilver and all these guys. And I'm like, if I recall, last we saw you were being choked by Apocalypse, and these guys saved your life. So I would be like, I think I'm done having you order me around like this.
And by the way, related to that, do you find it a little odd that image of Apocalypse choking the life out of
It's
Mystique,
like a promotional material.
That's the billboard.
We talked about that. There's an enormous. I was driving to LAX, and there's a huge building right by the exit, and it always has an enormous building size image on it of a movie. And this image currently is Jennifer Lawrence being choked with like an uncomfortable look on her face.
Right, exactly. It's not like she's struggling against, like, you know what I mean? It's she's like 2 seconds from death.
Yeah, it's very disconcerting.
Yeah.
It's so funny you brought that up. I've talked about this with other people.
I mean, I was just, because I saw that billboard a while ago, like maybe a month or a month and a half ago, and I was like, there's got to be a better promo image than this. Like, come on, really?
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
So I read another interview with, this was Simon Kinberg, where he actually talked about how, by the way, we should mention, like shoehorn into the middle here, we have our, at this point, requisite Wolverine cameo.
Right. Yeah, someone asked me if I thought it was cool when he was like surprisingly in the film. I was like, yeah, it was cool seeing him surprisingly show up in one of these movies for the fourth time.
and I'm not even, you know what, you want to get Hugh Jackman in there as Wolverine? I'm all about it. Like, I'm just like, I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, sure. Oh, of course.
And I will say, I think he took some of the enthusiasm with him when he left the film.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Here's the interesting thing, though. The Simon Kinberg, who wrote the script and also produced the film, he was talking about how the original intent was that Wolverine would enter the film and then he would essentially be like the drill sergeant and get our heroes ready for their final battle.
Okay.
And they were like, no, we didn't want to do that because we felt like that was stepping on Jennifer's role as sort of the person who gets the team into shape or whatever.
Who said that?
Simon Kinberg said
Kinberg actually said that? Wow.
And I'm like...
It's almost like admitting rather than...
Right. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that option A is what audiences would have preferred.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not even somebody who's like, oh, you got to have Wolverine in every movie. I'm not saying that. But I'm like, if you got him, you might as well use him.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's one thing. You're like, well, Hugh Jackman didn't want to do it. Or, no, he was obviously game. He did this.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not a question of availability. He was down for whatever.
Right. It's a weird thing. I mean, she's obviously, the biggest star in the film, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but she just by nature, her character is not a front and center character. I mean, what do you do with that? Like, you have to sort of do something with her.
This is the point, okay? And I like Jennifer Lawrence. I don't have a problem with her. But yeah. Jennifer Lawrence is a star when she does these character-driven pieces. She's not a star in the X-Men movies. So
that in mind, and I've talked about this with someone, what if she did leave? Like, if she's not happy and she leaves, I mean,
who cares?
I don't think anyone would.
Listen, you could
no slam on her at all. It's just that she's not selling these movies.
Listen, man, I could have played Apocalypse. I could play Mystique in the next movie. I'll get naked and slap on the blue makeup. Picture that, Brian. Go ahead. I'll let you. I'll pause while you picture that. Nobody will notice, though. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah. No, I doubt it.
You could have Mystique recast or not in the next one. Nobody will. I promise you, no one will care.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're at this point now where essentially the X-Men exist because of Mystique is just goofy as all hell.
Yeah, sure.
Right. That being said, I love all of the recast versions of the original characters.
Oh, for sure.
The new Cyclops, new Jean Grey, new Storm, new Nightcrawler. See, that's what I'm saying. When the movie ended, I was like, you know what? Totally down to see these characters again in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back McAvoy. I would almost say don't bring back Fassbender necessarily in the next one. Like, give Magneto a rest.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Even though, again, I love seeing the relationship, but it just felt like in this one they had no idea what to do with him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Other thoughts on the film? Anything else that jumps out at you?
I have two random thoughts. One was, so when Apocalypse gets buried under the pyramids, in my head, as he's getting crushed and buried away for years and years and years, I was thinking of all the X-Men adventures that had already taken place over the years and how this guy had never been a part of them. And
sure,
after thousands of years, now all of a sudden he's going to be a part of it. I was like, why? Like, why now? Like, if he's this powerful, what took him so long and whatever? And the answer was really funny. It's because someone accidentally left the door open and the sun got through. Like, thousands and thousands of years, Rose Byrne left the door open.
Way to go, Rose Byrne.
And then I just thought that was funny that was the only thing that was holding him back from being awoken and wreaking havoc on the earth. Two was
that's Brian's non sequitur.
Two, continuing with the non sequiturs, I was like, where are these people getting their armor? The horsemen, like the 4 horsemen, right? So then we see that Apocalypse is making it, right? He's able to control elements or something, and so he's making this armor for all these people that he's getting to join his team. And it's funny because Storm's got these shoulder pads and Magneto's got this like crazy cool suit of armor. And then I look over and you see Olivia Munn basically in underwear. And I was like,
they needed, and because she's a comedic actor, you almost need that scene where she's like, really? Like the energy like swirls around her and she's wearing this thing. Because she had like a leather jacket on before, right?
Yeah, she's wearing, yeah.
She just looks at like, really, it's like something out of like the Futurama or something. It's
yeah. Like, can I at least get a shield or something? Or
and by the way, Olivia Munn basically worthless in this movie.
Yeah,
not her fault
at all. And she's probably capable of more, but yeah, they didn't. And I think it's distracting because we know who she is, right? You're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
and then hype her up, and then
that's really true because the truth that like Psylocke is kind of an important character in the comics, and certainly. She looks she's wearing exactly what Psylocke wears in the comics. So that's more a failing of the comics being aimed at like 13-year-old pubescent males, right?
Sure.
So they're like, the fact that it's comic accurate, well, that's a problem in the comics. But so when I heard, oh, Olivia Munn is Psylocke, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I can totally see it. But the problem is exactly what you said. She is so notable, and not for doing stuff like this, that it calls attention to itself.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to mention was, okay, so first of all, we have this scene where Magneto essentially Apocalypse augments his powers, right? How by going to Auschwitz and all of the rage that happened to his family bubbles up and he destroys Auschwitz.
Right.
And I was like, he just destroyed Auschwitz. That's kind of important. Like, I feel like that's an important part of the story here, given that that hasn't actually happened 30 years ago, right?
Right.
But the other thing is that Magneto murders like a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah.
Like probably thousands of people die based on what Magneto does in this movie.
Right.
And the movie does not acknowledge this at all. Right. I mean, this is like, if we're, think about this for a second. Like, we know if we're considering this as a quote unquote prequel, well, we know what Magneto's role in the narrative is. He's on the road to becoming the X-Men's main villain. Mm-hmm. And this is actually a failing of X-Men First Class, is that they ended X-Men First Class with Magneto going evil, right? Mm-hmm. And then you had to bring him back for the next one, and you like kind of make him good. And now he's like kind of good, and you got to make him evil. Like, they should have just not done that 3 movies ago.
Right.
Right. So in other words, it almost would have been more interesting to just have him be like he's from then to now, he's just trying to live a normal life, and then he loses his family, and this is the turn where Magneto becomes evil. That would give the film more appeal almost.
Right. I think so. And then I don't know. Yeah. Then he starts working for this crazy villain because he aligns with him and his views, but then realizes that oh no, this dude's like really bad. So he's going to go do his own thing.
Here's what I'm thinking, right? You have, instead of Apocalypse being the mechanism by which Magneto is evil, in the sense that he's committing all these murders and stuff, the thing that makes Magneto go evil is, look, I tried to do it your way, Charles. It didn't work. And then he murders those people, and it's almost like that's the end of Magneto's arc in this movie. Like, we don't see him again.
Mm-hmm.
Or his arc is in parallel but unconnected to the Apocalypse story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like him being Apocalypse's flunky weakens his character.
Totally agree.
Right? Like, you're trying to give Fassbender something to do, fine, but have it be, again, running alongside this story, but it doesn't overlap with it directly.
Right.
Because he's like a mass murderer on a ridiculous scale, but at the end it's like, well, Charles, I'll see you later, and like, it's just weird, you know?
Yeah.
Like, have this be the breaking point between these two friends.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
You know, have it be the Revenge of the Sith of these prequel movies.
Right.
You know? Anyway, so that's me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. I mean, there's things to enjoy in it for sure, but it just, unfortunately, just felt far afield from the others.
So the reviews were mixed to negative, I would say. One review in particular was like, this is a franchise killer.
Right. Well,
that seems hyperbolic to me, right? No,
I definitely don't agree with that.
And part of that is because we are so many years and so many movies in that I think once you've been around for this long, you're allowed the occasional mediocre movie without it being the end of the whole road.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. I would just call it a weaker entry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that would kill the franchise is if Fox panics like Sony did after Spider-Man 3, and then again after Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, just follow up a mediocre one with a good one, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, they've got all the right ingredients.
And Bryan Singer, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like you said, like the way that they've recast all these characters and everything. I mean, they've got everything they need.
Yeah.
So.
And as I was alluding to earlier, Bryan Singer has said he's planning to take a break after this one, so he'll still be involved in some capacity or not. But that might not be a bad way to go to. Some people are like, Bryan Singer sucks, he's ruined it. I genuinely don't feel that way. And I was talking about this with somebody else. I was like, this movie does not land for me, but I appreciate that he was clearly trying to do something different.
I totally agree. Like the word that came to my mind was misstep.
Yes.
It's just a misstep, and at least they were trying something different. Yeah, exactly. And it just, for some reason, didn't come together like the others had. But I mean, that's kind of the luxury of having this many films in a series, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like the James Bond franchise, they were able to roll the dice on Moonraker, and then they followed that up with For Your Eyes Only. And so you have the most fanciful followed by the most grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, neither of those was a franchise killer, and that's the luxury that you have, like you said.
Yeah.
And speaking of the luxury of continuing the series, obviously we have the Wolverine sequel coming up next year, which is Hugh Jackman's final Wolverine movie, which even as I say that, I get a little sad.
It's weird. It's also weird because they're recasting, right? Cyclops, Jean Grey. So they're finding a new way to sort of keep this universe open, but, bring in these new people. But Hugh Jackman is clearly Wolverine in this universe with every generation. Right. So it'll be really weird for them to figure out how that they replace him.
Yeah, that's a Band-Aid that they're trying to pull off as slowly as possible.
Yeah.
it's gonna be I mean, when you think about it, from the time the first X-Men came out until Hugh Jackman leaves, so 2017, 17 years he's played the same character.
Wow.
During that time we'll have had 4 presidents, 2 James Bonds, 2 Batmen, 2 Spider-Men, 3 Supermans.
Wow.
2 Professor X's, 2 Magneto, etc.
Yeah, you're right. In his own franchise.
Yeah. So, I mean, that tells you something about just what an indelible mark he's left on these things.
For sure.
But that's a conversation we'll have at another time. I think that wraps things up for X-Men Apocalypse. We'll be back soon to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
Cowabunga.
And honestly, Brian, all I ask about this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 is that it be better than the last Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Yeah.
That's the bar for me.
If I remember right, I didn't hate it. I just didn't think much of it. So as long as it's a little fun and got the shredder in it.
Well, I mean, again, if nothing else, the last time they did a Ninja Turtles sequel, it was terrible. So hopefully,
Luca and Razar?
Yes.
Blasphemy.
I had a problem with the fact that those characters are basically babies.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That their turtles are forced to fight.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't think about that.
Remember, they're like "Mama." Right? That's what they call the Shredder.
Oh yeah.
They're like child soldiers. It's horrible.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, all right. It did give us like one of the greatest lines in cinema history. A little too wrath.
Dude, so actually speaking of that, I just saw some of, not even all of, Ninja Turtles 3.
I've never seen it.
The other day. Yeah, well, Sean talked about how he saw it in the theaters and it was like one of the worst experiences he's ever had. So I'm like, well, I'm not in a hurry to watch it. But my kids have been working their way through those movies. And so they're watching the third one on Netflix. And it is seriously awful.
Really?
Like, I mean, the turtles look terrible.
Oh, interesting. So it was
like noticeably terrible.
Why didn't they just reuse the suits?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the suits are different. And I mean, again, I saw about 3 minutes.
Really? That's all. Part of me, I forget. Now I think about this movie often, but every now and then when I'm reminded that it exists, I'm like, oh, there's a Ninja Turtles movie I haven't seen. Like, that could be kind of fun.
Well, it's on Netflix, so between now and the next time we talk, if you want to check it out, feel free.
All right. Well, maybe I will.
Maybe we'll talk about it next time. All right, Brian, as we wrap up, anything you want to hype up for our audience?
Well, you know, like I bring up sometimes, I'm currently writing for the Bob's Burgers comic book, and I believe mine is still the issue that's out right now. Currently, it's a 2-parter, so you'd have to get the one before and the one after. And it's about the kids getting sucked into a video game. Lots of fun. So feel free to check that out and check out the show Bob's Burgers. I work on that also. So great show.
It is at that. I've been binge watching my way through it.
Nice.
And as far as me, you can find me at Zaki's Corner. That's ZAKIS corner.com. And also on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle as well. My reviews go up regularly at the Huffington Post, as does this show. I will have my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles later this week, so you can check that out. Also, look for the latest Nostalgia Theater podcast, which just dropped today. And I talked to Richard Hatch, star of the original Battlestar Galactica and also co-star on the remake series, where he talked about making both of those shows. He also talked about what it was like replacing Michael Douglas on Streets of San Francisco back in the 70s. So really fun conversation. I think y'all will enjoy it. So please hit subscribe on the Nostalgia Theater Show. Also hit subscribe on the MovieFilm podcast at iTunes. Also, I read some of the reviews we've gotten. Please continue to write and leave reviews and star ratings for us. Every little bit helps. If you want to reach out to us, you can email moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. Also, hit like on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast. You can find our podcast wherever you seek out podcasts. Pretty much we're expanding into all areas, so that shouldn't be a problem. And other than that, I think that's it for this week, Brian.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks for listening.
With you as always.
Yes, and hopefully y'all enjoyed listening. We'll be back soon to talk about Ninja Turtles. Take care.
Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. Okay.